I know I had it down right, but because I know I tried to do it earlier at 3:30 and because I had a meeting in between, but
And I had one at 5, so that's ridiculous.
boy, busy people.
Oh, there's Stephanie.
Yep. Did I forget to tell people we were not having a meeting?
Yep. We were there though.
Sorry.
We're dedicated.
We were there for an hour.
We for a whole hour?
Yeah,
I
just a little
wouldn't
corner of my screen.
I wouldn't call that necessarily dedicated, but
No.
actually what ended up it, gosh, I've been trying to take a little bit of time off, and Jeff suggested that we do the abutter meeting today instead of the 3:30, which we did.
Oh, good.
And that actually, so I'm off tomorrow, but maybe I can
Excuse me.
get some time with you folks. That actually ended up well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I was concerned about that, so that's great
Did
news.
did Meredith make the meeting?
No, but Arlene was there.
Okay.
Arlene kept telling me I was going to see her daughter tonight, so that made it sound like she wasn't coming.
Yeah, we were talking about it at lunch, and didn't know about I didn't remember the abutters meeting, and
Yeah.
so I didn't quite know what she was talking about. And then my day just got worse. So
All right. And you know what? I don't have a pen.
well, I
Might
think
have to
we
go
should
find
adjourn.
one. Because of that, I don't know. I don't think that's a good excuse. I'm going to go get my pen.
She got me excited. I thought this meeting was canceled.
Sorry.
For my small project updates, I'm going to make sure I speak very slowly.
Oh yeah. Speaking of your projects, I contacted Madeline today.
Oh, great. Hold on a second. So I see a phone number, 508-380-3943. Do we know who that is? Is it an attendee for one of the items, or is it a board member? I don't have a name with it. If it's a board member, if you could let us know, put something in the chat or something so I know to, hello?
Maybe you could allow them to speak momentarily, because if they're
That's a
on
good
a phone.
idea. Yeah, there we are. Hello, phone number 508-380-3943. You're muted. Right. I will assume it's somebody probably interested in the pickleball, I assume, but I'm not sure.
Hey, Wayne, would you
Yes,
mind
ma'am.
making me a co-host? Then we'll have two eyes on the
You bet.
participant.
Yeah, let me see. Where do I do that? Do you remind me how to do that? Go up to your little thing.
You should, oh gosh.
There it is. Make co-host. Boom.
Here you go. That must be it.
Yes. Here's Meredith.
Good, now I can see people too. Well, we certainly have plenty
Meredith
of people.
thing, and she says I'm on the phone.
Oh, Meredith is the phone and the person, so we have two Merediths.
So it says
Her phone's gone. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess Meredith was the telephone. Understood. Yeah. There's Meredith's emailing. Got it. So many screens.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about
Hello,
that.
Meredith. Oh,
Ah,
no worries.
Hi.
I'm actually getting to the point where I know an awful lot of people's cell phone numbers. I'm like, oh, I know who that is when I see it in a Zoom meeting. So give me a few more meetings, Meredith, and I'm sure I'll have yours memorized too.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So Stephanie and I had a conversation with Tom Broussard a little earlier this week, and I believe he is planning on being here. And I don't know about other folks. We did invite the new member, Amos.
Who's the new member?
Amos
Amos Kedem, the rep from the planning board.
Ask him.
No, no. Oh, yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So we do have five. We do have a quorum actually, so that's good. All right, so where are we? Broussard. Trying to mute myself. You don't need to listen to me mutter. So Ed, you said you did actually have a conversation with Madeline?
No, we had an email thing. She requested some primary source documents, which I sent to her.
Oh,
And then
okay.
she said that she's going to be down for a very quick trip sometime next week.
Oh, okay. And hopefully you'll be able to meet up.
Yes, I said any day except Monday afternoon, so I'm pretty free.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that'll be
Hmm.
good. We
Maybe
can,
I should send Tom a text.
Yeah, maybe.
Tell him we're going to make him chairman for life unless he shows up in the next 5 minutes.
With no escape possible, huh?
Jim, Amanda?
Yeah. So we're missing Tom, Amos, Amanda, and Jim. We actually do have a quorum, but since Tom was planning to be here.
Yeah. And you promised to talk fast.
Always. You'll make a Yankee out of me yet.
The Yankees talk fast.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. New England is not a slow and lackadaisical speech pattern kind of place.
All right, well, I just sent Tom a text.
Excellent. And I know I did it via email, but consider this a little closer to in person. Thank you, Ed, and congratulations and welcome to back to the Historical Commission.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah, thanks.
Oh,
Thank you for your service.
You coming back in?
No, I'm not coming back. I'm back already.
Oh, wow. How did I miss that?
Yeah, yeah.
We were
it's
trying to
exciting
keep
stuff.
it from you as long as possible.
Just when you thought you were done.
Yes, every meeting, John, that you go to in Easton, Ed will be there. Here's Jim and Tom. Excellent.
Ah, here we go. Okay.
Okay, Tom, promote. Jim, promote. And I will also,
Comes in now.
yeah, let me see.
Hey team, my profound apologies at being late and having technical difficulties.
Does happen. And I will start up the recording again.
Recording in progress.
There we go.
Beautiful, and I shall say that this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote. Remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live, but certainly will be recorded on ECAT. So with that, I shall take a roll call by looking around the screen. Mr. Hands,
Here.
Al? That was an I. I read lips. I'm good. John Ventresco?
Aye.
Dennis Sheedy?
Present.
Jim Lee?
Aye.
Meredith Keach?
Aye, here.
Hey, Meredith. And Tom Broussard is here as well. Is there anybody in the waiting room, or did I miss anybody?
We were all sort of in the waiting room, Tom.
Perfect.
Yeah, the only person in the waiting room is Mr. Doyle.
Ah,
Excellent. Awesome. So with that, let's see. First up is a welcome to new and returning members. So I am here. So I am returning. I am happy to be here. I hope that I certainly would love to continue to be chair, and I would hope to have your support. But I do know we have to have a reorganization in terms of vice chair. So you'll note that Greg Strange is not here. Steph, just want to make sure we did invite Amos Kedem, correct?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Great. I didn't hear back that he couldn't make it. Did you?
No.
Great. So Amos will be joining us in place of Greg Strange. With Greg leaving, he was vice chair. So we do have a need for vice chair. Although not present, I do know Amanda would have, oh, go ahead, Wayne.
Amanda is in the waiting room, and I'm promoting her to a panelist, and she'll show up in about a second.
Excellent.
There we go.
Sorry, everyone.
hey.
No worries. I appreciate you making me feel better, as I was only slightly less late and delayed than you were. So always appreciate the last one in. We just were welcoming new and returning members. I'm the only returning. The new member would have been Amos Kedem, replacing Greg Strange. And with Greg Strange's replacement, we do have an opening for vice chair. Amanda, I do know that you have some interest, but I certainly want to open it up to the team in case there is other interest for vice chair, or if everybody wants to have a discussion and debate about that process, and certainly about my position too. I wouldn't take that for granted either. So I will pause there and let the team somewhat engage in dialogue and debate if needed.
I would move both nominations forward.
I second that.
That was easy. We'll go around the horn. Ed Hands,
Aye.
Al Benson,
Aye.
John Ventresco. Think that was an aye, John?
Yes, aye.
Perfect. Dennis Sheedy,
Aye.
Jim Lee,
Aye.
Meredith Keach,
Aye.
Amanda Varela,
Aye.
and Tom Broussard is an aye. So appreciate your support. Really appreciate this team. I think we get a lot done, make a big impact on the community, and I think you all know that far better than I do. So you don't need me to put it in words, but it's pretty important, I think, what we get the chance to do. So thank you so much. Minutes. So just so that everybody knows, have received from Wayne and Stephanie a copy of all the executive minutes. I've asked Stephanie and Wayne, along with myself, to reread through them to understand whether or not we can or shouldn't release them from our opinion. We're happy to bring it back to the team. But as I think everybody knows, those executive minutes encompass the intertwining of two topics, one of which is resolved and one of which is not. And the one that is not, there is some language in those discussions that may have something to do with the second item. That's about as vague and specific as I can get, but I think you all recollect the minutes. And just want you to know, we're not letting those executive session minutes just sit. We are working hard to figure out a course of action. We do have the June 8th, 2023 regular session minutes to accept. Did anybody have any thoughts, comments, or questions on those?
Oh, I'd like to move that.
So that's John Ventresco and Jim Lee seconding, going around the horn. Ed?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Amanda? Abstained, and Tom Broussard is an aye. Takes care of minutes. Unionville Field Pickleball Courts closeout update. Steph, do you want to just bring us up to speed on where we're at?
Sure. As far as the construction of the court goes, that is essentially complete. We are holding retainage. There is some repair work that needs to be done to the coating. They are planning on coming sometime this month, giving me a call with a heads up so we can close the courts for the day while they repair it, and then keep it closed for a sufficient time so that it has adequate time to cure.
Sure.
Then everyone will remember there were some complaints from the abutters about the noise and the time of play, people parking on the basketball court and on the grass. So we have ordered sound barriers and the support structures that you need when you install the barriers. Basically, it is a heavy material, similar, it's kind of like an interior curtain that is made of a soundproofing material that is placed inside around the fencing, and we will be doing a 3-sided installation. That has been ordered. It is a 6-month lead time. I'm sorry, 6-week lead time.
Got me nervous there for a minute.
Yeah, someone's gonna call me on that one. So it's about a week into that. We had to wait and get the contract signed and all of that. And as soon as it arrives, it will be installed. Part of that installation requires poles, support poles that are placed at right angles to the ground and the fence itself. And that is to prevent collapsing of the fence as a result of creating this barrier if you had a heavy wind gust that might come in and cause that. So those have all been installed. So as soon as the material comes in, that will be installed, and we expect to see a difference there. And then times of operation have been posted at the courts, dusk to dawn. And signs, I'm told signs were going up this week, telling people, letting people know that they should not be parking on the basketball court.
Awesome.
Stephanie, what's the percentage of noise reduction with these petitions, barriers?
It is, I believe, 25 to 30%. But I'd have to go back to the documents that Todd Texera, who is the grounds and building supervisor for the town.
Has it been discussed with the abutters that would be appropriate, or are they thinking it's going to be?
John, I can't hear you really well. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me pull it a little closer. So has that been discussed with the abutter? I mean, is the abutter thinking this is going to be a 50% reduction or a 70% reduction or a 100% reduction?
I think they know it's
can
not
answer
going
that.
to be 100% reduction.
No,
I
just,
think I can answer that a little bit. If the team remembers, and I'm sharing my screen, during the review and discussion of the sound reducing materials, we presented the testing reports that other communities had done on the noise reduction. And so we were able to demonstrate that the reduction was not 100%, that the differences were smaller, and that there was, this is the barrier wall up data, So I guess I hope I didn't jump the gun, but it compared no walls to walls, and I definitely show it. It didn't demonstrate 100% reduction.
No, I was just, being exaggerating, but I didn't know
Yeah.
if it was the discussion, this, what you're showing here, Tom, if that was shown to the abutter.
Yeah, I think so I called it up during our meeting to share this
Yeah.
information live to the team. And they were at the meeting.
Okay, good.
I think you're right. There's probably a fair conversation as to whether or not it was retained, understood, and perhaps computed on the fly. But we did share this information. I felt it important to share it with you as the committee to understand you would get some degree of effectiveness from the incremental spend. But again, I got this. This was from Todd, Stephanie. There were other documents, but I think this was the pertinent one that I relied on
Yes,
to
yep.
demonstrate the difference.
Perfect.
Great question, though. We are having dialogue with the other tenants. I will update them on the status. I think that they continue, and again, there's no judgment with this statement. I just am stating the facts. I think they continue to be disenfranchised, that there is a pickleball court there, that it is as active as it is from dawn to dusk, and that it is as noise producing as it is. And again, I think we can understand that, the commentary and feedback. I'm appreciative that we stepped up and have tried to engage as meaningfully as we could. I think they would also have preferred it wouldn't take 6 to 8 weeks to have it installed. That means that they will most likely be dealing with the noise generation for a continued summer. But if we can mitigate the amount of parking at basketball courts, I hope there's also signs that there's no parking on the field. And then if we need to, I think we should explore recommending somehow that the town engage on putting up either like a chain link loop, a chain loop or something that says don't park in the basketball courts, and maybe with the opening as well of the pickleball courts at the current Oaks Ames basketball courts will enable some pressure. And I do want the team to know that in an update call, I did speak with the school team and recommended they get out in front of what the hours of usage would be for those pickleball courts. So the usage of courts on school property has rules and regulations. So people can't just come and use the basketball courts during the day when school's in session, for example, whenever they want. There's a system to try to reserve courts when they're available. And the same thing applies to the pickleball courts. As you can imagine, inviting a lot of people onto your campus could create a security concern. And that's why they will be treating the pickleball courts exactly like they treat the basketball and tennis courts now. But there are lights, so maybe it extends the usage of those courts into the night, and maybe dusk is not as late at the pickleball courts as a result for that particular audience. So that's the only update I have regarding the pickleball courts. Any other thoughts or questions? All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for the update and the continued work there. I'll send Michael Duffy in my travels an email update just to let him know the DPW did do that work, so that we continue to be as expeditious as possible when the actual material comes in. Team, we have a I'll call it a special circumstance that has arisen. I'll let Stephanie and Wayne walk us through it in greater detail. But we do have a CPA application for the fall 2023 special town meeting. We have the letter of interest to discuss. But Stephanie, do you want to walk us through this particular topic?
Sure. So I think most of you are probably familiar that the Clifford Grant Management Area Conservation Land extends behind the school complex at Lothrop Street and includes the town forest, and that there is a trailhead there. It was brought to our attention by property owners that a portion of that trail actually extends over their land, and is not on the town-owned land. There was another in that trail that leads from the entrance actually has existed as long as I've worked for the town, over 15 years. I'm sure 20 years, probably maybe more, and it has been actively used. It's used by the Oliver Ames cross country team as part of their practice running area. Back in, sometime between probably 2010, I'm going to guess, a portion of trail was extended, a portion of the trail through that trail system, including another segment was added to create a full loop through the Clifford Grant management area. And a portion of that trail actually also ran on property owned by the same property owners of the trail that leads from the high school into the trail system. The Conservation Commission was contacted by the owners, asked to shut down the trail and to move it. The trail that was recently created is in the process of being moved. That's fairly easy to do without disturbing a lot of wetland area, which there's a lot of out in Clifford Grant. But the segment of the trail that leads from the high school to the interior of Clifford Grant is more difficult to move. It would really require either an extensive workaround because of the extent of the wetland areas, and a lot of bridging if it were to be done and clearing with the wetland area. So the town, and it was suggested by one of the owners of the property, that maybe the town would be interested in obtaining an easement. So we have communicated with the owners, and the Conservation Commission has taken a vote, and we've received an appraisal to extend an offer to the property owners to buy the land outright. The land was valued at $37,000, and it was determined that it would make sense to buy it. So an offer letter is in the works and is being sent to the property owners.
I believe this is just for the portion that provides access from the school complex.
Right, I thought I made that clear.
Yeah.
The other segment is in the process of being moved.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, I have two questions. So did you say owner or owners?
Well, when I was talking
It's
owner
owners,
initially,
plural,
the
three.
property is owned by 3 parties.
So that 37,000 is going to be split 3 ways?
It would be paid out to the owners of the property.
Okay. And the second question, and I wasn't sure, is it an easement that we're purchasing, or is it going to be the actual land?
We are seeking the land. At the cost, it seemed to make more sense to just offer to purchase that parcel.
Couple of other things that might be of interest, since it was discussed in the conservation meeting. I attended that one. It's a 5-acre lot. It's unbuildable because it doesn't have the necessary street frontage. So the price of 37,000 was a number that was given by a qualified, let's say, property evaluator. So we paid for that, and we also paid for a survey. So there's There's, the other party expenses are $9,000. There's 4,500 for the, survey and the valuation was another 4,500. So 9,000 came from the Conservation Committee to move this forward.
Al, just to state the obvious, but it's important to ask it, I deeply value each of the committee members who sit on these other subcommittees or other committees, have that debate, that dialogue, and therefore come back and represent that to the CPC. Is it fair to say that you support this letter of interest?
Absolutely. There was a unanimous vote in the Conservation Committee to try to move the project forward, and then secondarily to try to expedite it at the fall meeting so that we are greater chance of having this work for the town.
Got it.
Thank you.
Team, any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just curious, are these new owners? I'm
They've
No.
been, they've
how
owned the
it's got to
property
this
for,
point.
they've owned the property for a significant number of years. I don't know how far back, but it is significant. Also, there is some kind of liability on the property that will be paid for out of $37,000. I don't know how much, but I know it's some monies are due to a third party.
Amanda, I can, because I've had conversations with the property owners over the years, because they own other property that abuts the Clifford Grant area, other property that we haven't constructed trails over inadvertently. And it's, the owners currently are the children of two families, two couples that owned the land jointly in the past, and it was passed on to the children.
Say that there's, likely a claim that has been acquired by adverse possession, but for $30,000, it's not worth fighting that. It would be more
Right.
expensive to litigate it than to do that.
Yeah, it's 37.
Any other questions or thoughts? So this is the letter of interest. So this would just be recommending that the applicant come forward with a full-fledged application in terms of our process. Stephanie and Wayne?
Yes.
And I think the timeline would be,
Well, no.
yeah, well, it's for fall town meeting, and so we'll get into timelines later on in this meeting. But I think this group would look to consider that a sort of draft application at the August meeting, and then for the September meeting would need to vote to recommend, because I believe the warrant for fall town meeting closes mid or late September. And then they've not picked a date for that fall town meeting, but it is traditionally sort of in the teens in November, November 16th or whatever Monday would be in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so looking for a vote probably in August or definitely in September is my
Sure.
guess.
Team,
Can I
any
ask a question on that?
Sure.
On the warrant, would that be possible to take a look at before it's finalized, the members of the committee here?
They always, I mean, they usually are, aren't they, Wayne?
Yeah.
I didn't see the last group. That's why I'm asking.
They do draft warrant articles and post them online, and they do several iterations of them until they finalize it ahead of town meeting.
So I guess, Wayne, if we could ask you, when you get the draft warrant language for this article, could you share it with the committee, and we'll make it an agenda item to review the warrant language, if that's okay, Al?
Thank you. That's great.
Sure.
Thank
It's a good ask. Thank you, sir. Does anybody have issue with us recommending that this applicant proceed and issue a draft application for our review and consideration in the August meeting?
No.
None. Hearing so, Wayne, Stephanie, if you could just give the good news to Rory. Al may have a meeting or could reach out to Rory as well. And
In that regard, Rory is on the committee, but he asked not to be the chair. So Ben Carroll is the current chair for the Conservation Committee.
Yep.
and his vice chair is Mike Spada.
Awesome. So we can let Rory know just in due course as he signed this, and then let Ben Carroll know so that he can pick up the torch from a chair perspective and continue to be our primary contact. Awesome. Okay, next up on the agenda, CPA applications for the May 2024 annual town meeting, letters of interest that have been received. Is the intent to go through all of these letters of interest today, Wayne, or to go through any of them, some of them? And I know you sent me an email with some great detail that I apologize I have not been able to get to.
In a more ideal world, which unfortunately we don't live in, we would have been able to start this process a month or two earlier. So we are on a slightly compressed timeline. So what I've done is created a timeline breaking the 7 or 8 letters of interest into 2 cohorts and staggered it for the letters of interest, the draft application, the final application, so that this group is not necessarily considering, unless they want to, any more than 3 or 4 of those applications, with of course the understanding that the Clifford grant is on its own very compressed timeline. So this is the letters of interest presented are the ones that we have received. So that's the group under consideration. Stephanie and I have done a quick look over. None of them seem ineligible. For some of them, we've encouraged them to have more detailed conversations with relevant boards and commissions and do a little more homework and so forth. And the idea would be for the letters of interest, for the library, for the community garden improvements, and the conservation property signage to come to the August meeting, and the letters of interest for the Oliver Ames High School baseball field improvements, the Keach Field fencing, and the Swifts Park construction to come to the September 14th meeting. So that would be the letters of interest and the conversation with the CPC members to decide, do they want to invite draft applications, and then they'd be staggered for, the following month and so on. And I think this process will, perfect, thank you, yes. I think this process will fall apart a little bit towards the end, because some of these applications I suspect will be very simple, and some might be more detailed. So the group may decide to actually vote to recommend at, say, a December meeting, not necessarily the January or the February meeting. But I've tried to stagger it to give the applicants and the CPC members ample time at the various meetings to present, to discuss, and to consider.
Awesome. So team, I'll ask Wayne to share this with the broader audience. I did peruse this earlier. I think it's an incredible start. What it says is that, at today's meeting, July 13th, we'll discuss the Clifford Grant Trail access. We'll review the draft application in August. Again, repeating what Wayne said, we'll make sure we have a final vote by September 14th, and that's when we'll vote to recommend. Then you'll see the next group is on August 10th. We will review the letters of interest for the Ames Free Library, the community gardens, the conservation property signage. Then we'll look at draft applications on deadline due September 27th. We will look at them at October 12th. Application deadlines November 29th. We'll look at them December 14th, and then we'll vote to recommend either in January or February. So I think it's a thoughtful way to not have marathon meetings on our side, break up the groups into different engagement periods of time. And that way we just have a thoughtful plan on how we're going to look at and review these letters of interest.
Perfect.
So Wayne, great work on this. This is exactly what we talked about, and I appreciate you putting this together.
Thank you.
And you'll see he carries it all the way through to all of the meetings through February 8th. So again, it's a great way for us to keep track of what we have on our plates. Wayne, you may have these numbers at your fingertips. I may not, but the entirety of all the CPA applications that we have this year, do you have by chance what the dollar cost currently is? Doesn't mean that's what it will be.
I can get that for you pretty instantly. It's a spreadsheet that appears in the binder sent out to everybody
Yep.
right before the
There it is.
applications start.
Ranges from 1.1 to 2.3 million. So, you know, one of the things, and I will share that screen. It's page 6 in our packet. Thank you, Wayne. The amount on the left is the low of 1.1. The high is 2.3. I think it's pretty smart to have good ranges, which is helpful. The largest variance of the ranges is the roof for the free library and the Swift Park construction cost, depending upon which plans finally come back. So again, I think it helps us understand. We know how much revenue we're projected. I think it's 2.6 million. We know part of that, a good portion, material portion, is services debt. So just being good fiscal stewards as we go through this process, I'd like to keep my eye on what are the rough costs of each of these, and that way we know how does it fit into the dollars we have at hand to the current amount. Thank
And
you, Wayne.
a big caveat that these are, of course, just letters of interest, so these numbers may change, you know, especially for a couple of them as they get more, say, construction estimates or what have you.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
All right. So is everybody okay with that process? So next period.
Great job, Wayne.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you
So
very much.
we have our letters of interest listed. We're not going to discuss them today. We start next meeting with 3 or 4 of them, and then we take it from there. Awesome. Project updates, Wayne, Stephanie. I think we've got some fence updates, town hall restoration, surveys, Pond Street, all sorts of good things.
Yeah, and then for our recording secretary, Kathy, I put together a little Word document summary, and I can send it to you in case I move a little too quickly with some of this information. So a quick update on some of the active projects, not all of them, it's not comprehensive. The Southeastern Cemetery fence, you'll remember this is a May 2022 town meeting for $105,000, and it's to complete the restoration and reconstruction of the iron fence. It's the second phase. It's about 1/3 of the fence remaining. The earlier part is done, and that was from 2019. And then I reached out to DeAngelis Ironwork, who is doing the work on this project. I talked to a fellow named Harry Dodakian from DeAngelis. He was very, very pleasant to deal with. They're producing the patterns for the replication. They believe they'll get that completed in mid-August. They're going to produce castings about 6 weeks after the patterns are complete, and that's for the so at some point in September. Then they'll fabricate the fence in October with an installation maybe taking about a week, and their target is mid-November. And I believe this work, the patterns and castings are being done at a foundry in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and then the fence gets assembled back at DeAngelis. And this segues over to the 555 Foundry Street fence, and you'll remember this is a May 2022 annual town meeting for $260,000 to restore this early 19th century fence. It's been removed for restoration by DeAngelis. The concrete footings have been installed. That was a couple weeks ago. The draft preservation restriction has been reviewed and edited by both the owner's attorney and by our town council, and the most recent draft is currently with the owner's attorney for their further consideration. And again, Harry Dodakian from DeAngelis, they're looking to sandblast the fence in late July, start their shop restoration in early August. They believe the duration will be about 10 weeks, wrapping up in early October and looking to install in early to mid-October by, say, 10/13. And of course, you'll remember the structure of this deal is such that the owner pays everything And then when it's done to the town's satisfaction and the preservation restriction is approved and recorded, then he is reimbursed the $260,000 grant. So that's the timeline for that.
Wayne, before you
Yeah.
move on, will the town own the molds? So if there's any future damage, they can be reproduced easily?
No, I don't think so. For the 555 Foundry Street fence, it's restoration, so there aren't molds. They're using the original material, I believe. For the Southeastern Cemetery fence, that's a good question. I suspect not, but perhaps we could certainly ask. One thing that they're doing with the cemetery fence is producing, I believe, 2 spare sections that they're going to store. The big danger there is cars, kind of go through it and take out a section or 2. So this way they'll have a few spare that they'll keep in their shed.
Wayne, because I remember bringing this up because of the nature of that spot being hit, if they could have an extra couple of spare panels. So that's great.
Yeah. And then for the town hall restoration project, again, this was in November 2020, a special town meeting for 1.45 million, 225,000 supplemental at May 2022 annual town meeting. It's for the comprehensive exterior restoration. It was defrayed with a $59,000 grant from Massachusetts Historical Commission, which also enabled the state MHC to hold a preservation restriction on town hall. Folks may remember that it has been a challenge for many, many years finding an entity that is qualified and willing to hold a preservation restriction on the building. It's a hierarchy, so you need sort of someone higher up. So this grant was a great tool for bringing a preservation restriction along with it. The work, as people who've been by town hall will know, is substantially complete, and they also managed to get in the decorative wellhead that is off to that northeast side. That was in very poor condition, and they managed to value engineer the project so that they could actually get that done. So I want to do a particular shout out to Lynn Spencer, the lead for the project, who managed to make that happen. There's still some retainage left. The most significant items are storm doors and some remaining window work and a few other little punch list items. They've put in, of course, the storm water system last year, and they're looking to do the septic this year. Then, of course, there's this ongoing historic landscape rehabilitation plan, and that was this past May for 60 grand town meeting. We're finalizing our $30,000 reimbursement grant with the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Then we're going to hire a landscape architect to lead a public planning process. So I was just in communication with MHC today on that grant contract. And then the final 2 are a little bit of me and some other people. So first up is the Historical Commission surveys. This was a May 2018 annual town meeting for 30 grand. And very few consultants do this work anymore. So we had to go through several rounds of RFQs trying to solicit someone to do it, and we got no responses. And then the pandemic hit, so that knocked everyone out of commission. We re-engaged, had no luck. Re-engaged again, actually signed a contract. We found someone. We signed a contract with SWCA Environmental Consultants in April of this year. And a woman named Madeline Helmer is the lead on that project. And she and her team are working with Ed Hands on doing a research and survey work for 60 individual properties, plus about 4 cemeteries, with a total, and in addition, a total of about 60 individual headstones that might need special documentation. And Ed is in communication with SWCA, and Ed, I believe you'll be meeting with them next week for research and such.
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Not a problem.
And then the last thing I have an update on, and Tom might have some more color on this as well, is the Pond Street Island CR.
Sure.
And yeah, so this was a May 2022 annual town meeting for 350 grand to purchase a conservation restriction on about 5.5 acres that the trustees will buy from the Ames family, and it'll be added to the Governor Ames estate. And I think Tom had a conversation with the staff person from the trustees, Marianne Iarossi.
Yep, I did. So team, just again, due diligence. I think if I recall, the timeline for us to execute all of this from our perspective had a timeline of 12/31/2022. And just in candidly good practice, have to follow up to make sure people adhere to the stipulations of what we put forth. I had a great call with Marianne, who had the opportunity to tour the property with David, Bill, and Fred Ames. Long story short, I believe that they had a very productive conversation about the importance of signing the P&S, which then will enable the rest of the machinery to be at work. And she has asked for a short period of time to continue that discussion. She feels great progress was made. I've asked her to reach out if we don't make good progress, so that the CDC can officially engage to ask those involved for a clearer understanding of what's holding up the signing of the P&S. You know, again, an application came before us. It was posed to us that there was alignment. We supported, recommended, and placed a warrant article. We communicated to the residents of our town the importance of funding this. And so what I don't want to do is to think that we don't pay attention to the wishes of the residents, and that we don't hold accountable those applicants that come before us seeking our funds and then don't execute on the back end to the degree that we expect. So again, not trying to be difficult or hard, but it would be helpful if, in this case, for example, applicants came back and helped us understand the delay. We could then certainly vote to amend our initial date of 12/31 to a date that works for all, if in fact we believe it's valid and appropriate. So I guess I am beginning to create that engagement point. For the short term, I'm letting the players at hand try to solve it. And if I don't get resolution, I would seek to bring it back before the CPC so that we can engage and have a deeper discussion on how we would like to proceed with the application, given the fact that the date we set for this to be concluded has passed and then some. So hopefully that made sense. You kind of see where I'm going with it. But going forward, I do want to make sure our applicants appreciate our expectation that what they present to us for an application is whole, that it will be executed timely within the parameters that we're voted for, and that it's fair for us to hold them accountable to that expectation. Hopefully that works and matches CPC member expectations as well. Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. Next up.
Ed's got his hand up.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ed, please.
Trying
Sorry.
to be polite rather than jump in like I usually do. The last conversation, do you anticipate a date when you might have some more information on the resolution of this issue?
Yeah, great question, Ed. You can probably read between the lines. So before we hung up on the last call, I asked that person to set up a date for us to talk on the next call. That is the beginning of August. I felt the month was very fair and reasonable to address some of the, hopefully some of the concerns, which shouldn't be insurmountable. So after that month, then I will most likely engage directly with the applicants and with the appropriate members of the Ames family and ask them to help explain, and then bring it back for the CPC to understand all of the information that we found and let us make a decision as to how we'd like to proceed.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great question. John, thank you for the recognition of the hand raise. So I think that's the last of the updates. Wayne, any other final comments in terms of updates?
That's it. Thanks.
Sure. If there are any updates that the committee would like to see, if they would like to shoot me those items, I can have them added to the next agenda, and especially if it could be in time for Wayne and Stephanie to do the research necessary to provide those updates, that would be great. But otherwise, I think it's our intent that we have a rotating period of updates so that we can just keep the CPC team apprised. Even if it's no update, that is an update on some projects. That's okay too.
And I believe we're hoping that Joe Pitty from Rec will join us in August and give us a quick overview on Rec's plans for comprehensive planning for recreation in Easton.
That's a great call, and I think Meredith, that's a great signal to make sure you're aware of that as well, so that you as Rec Commission can be, Rec Committee can be prepared to highlight any important points you want the CPC to consider as well, in addition to Joe's, or in conjunction with Joe's presentation too.
Yep, he talked about it on Tuesday night's meeting, that he was planning to come to the August meeting, and hopefully we'll have secured the outfit who's going to do the study by then.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Meredith. Last up is just a meeting schedule for the remainder of 2023. Not much super new news. So August 10th is standard operating procedure. I think we do quickly get into some slight adjustments due to holidays for consideration. So August 10th is normal. For September, looks like the 14th is normal. It's the second Thursday. October 12th is normal. Is there any adjustments?
I think the Veterans
I think
Day
it's
in November.
November.
So we've had to
Okay,
kick
there
it
we
from the
go.
9th to the 16th, I think.
I had to go one more. So normally, exactly. So we would have normally met on November 9th, it looks like. We are moving it back to November 16th. And again, that's because of Veterans Day, I believe.
Right. On Saturday the 11th, yeah.
Right. Now, out of curiosity, if I could ask, so Veterans Day is recognized on Friday the 10th. So why couldn't we do the 9th on Thursday?
Frankly,
Yeah.
because Stephanie and I have off.
Ah, good. Absolutely. Well, when you get to set schedules, you get to make those considerations,
Yes.
right?
Thank you for your indulgence.
When you do the work, John.
Well, and technically, more technically, it's because, not because we're up, it's because the town's policy is that, and I think the open meeting law does not allow you to meet on a day that the town offices are closed.
Got it. Look, you had me at giving you folks an extra day off, for the record. But that technical reason is as well. Ed, just for the record, I do see your hand, but John had his finger up first. So this may be a case that the finger beats the hand.
Just a quick. And just from a thought process of planning and budgetary, do we have the hall coming back to us in the near future? Has there been any discussion with the trustees or with Fred?
Nothing. Crickets.
Okay.
Good question. I definitely think we have to keep it in our purview as a identified priority for the CPC. But yes, there has been crickets. No additional engagement.
Tom, if I may, we did,
Please.
Fred did reach out several months ago to ask when letters of interest were due. So that was communicated to him. But we haven't seen anything or heard anything since.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Ed with the full hand.
Yes. I was at the selectmen's meeting on Monday, and there was some suggestion that there might be a special town meeting in October that may impact on our October 12th date. Just wanted to let you know. And,
okay.
And I would also strongly suggest that perhaps in September, a publicity campaign that explains, as we have been doing over the years, how the CPA works and, you know, whose money it is and how it can be spent, and our achievements might be a good thing to get out there, because the public safety facility is a huge financial nut, and we don't want to get swept up in that.
I think that's a great idea. And for those of you that didn't hear, or I actually also listened in on the select board meeting, Ed, there was great discussion about a construction of a shared public safety, fire, police, DPW, water facility construction. And it is an incredible project. It was a very well thought out presentation. It is a large price to Ed's comment, round number 147 million, Ed, if my memory correct.
Yep.
So it would be a debt exclusion override. I would ask all of you, as just great stewards that you are, please, I'll try to get my hands on the presentation, so I'll share it with you. But if you could communicate it to your network and those people around you, this is the point in time where we can help educate the residents of the town and of this project, that they can truly have time to learn and understand from their perspective the merits, pros and cons, but at least be informed. And I think if we can just help people be informed, it will make for more meaningful discussion at a town meeting. And I think that they can understand the true merits of any project the more information they have. So I'll work and do my best to keep you folks informed. I know that I look forward to sharing it with my network so that they can understand it. But there's just, it was a great presentation. It was lengthy. There were a lot of slides. There were a lot of details. They went into great depth about why it was build new versus replace. So just a lot of logical questions would be at least beginning to be addressed by this presentation. And there's just a tremendous amount more to come.
From our perspective, I thought one of the real interesting parts of that presentation was their analysis of why it would cost substantially more to phase the project over a number of years. And that's something that we talk about doing all the time. There is a huge cost to that.
Agreed.
Where is it
Amanda?
located? Where would the proposed site be?
There's two proposed sites. Number one would be a fire substation across the street from Hilliard's. And then there would be the main facility in two buildings, a DPW building and a public safety building on the Gill property, which we bought with CPA money.
Right. And I think the town has 13 acres.
What?
And just to be clear, the land, that 10 acres of that land was actually paid for specifically. It was paid for with general funds or
Right.
capital funds specifically for future use as some type of public building and primarily public safety.
What's the proposal for the current buildings for those? So all the current, the one on Bay Road, the one by the schools, the one on Depot Street, what would they do with the existing buildings? Did they say?
Go ahead, Ed.
The one that I heard discussion on is that the little fire station at Eastondale, which is pretty inadequate, you need 3 firefighters to back the fire trucks in after they go out on a call. That would become sort of a public safety, civil defense, emergency response building. There was no discussion that I heard, and I could have missed it, but I didn't hear any discussion about the other buildings. Which are all buildings.
At a select board meeting last year, the Affordable Housing Trust met with the select board at a meeting to start the conversation about should this all move forward about the potentially surplus municipal properties, and whether some or all of them could be used to meet the housing needs of the town, whether it be affordable senior, supportive housing for veterans, family housing, or what have you. So if this does move forward, the hope from the Affordable Housing Trust, and the select board was very receptive to this, would be a planning process to see how, if and how some of the or all of these properties could meet other needs the town has.
Well, the water department building is a school of the same age as the house on the old school on Pine Street, which was converted into a house very effectively. So hopefully that could happen. It's a great idea, Wayne.
Yeah, thank you.
But I think it's fair to say, Wayne, Stephanie, that there hasn't been a highest best use discussion and or asset sale consideration of the properties at this point. It was more a presentation based upon
Right.
the
I
go
would
forward.
say
Correct.
that's fair, yes.
Yeah.
Is that fair? So Meredith, I think you asked a good question. I would fully expect the town, as part of this process, to begin to engage on that as well, should we move forward with this particular project.
As the select board explained, should this pass and move forward, there will be a several-year period of construction, which will allow for a generous
Meaningful.
time to a meaningful and generous time to really consider other uses.
Fair. So Ed, thank you. That started this conversation around being thoughtful about flexibility on schedule. I'm committed to the team to know as soon as we might hear something that causes a change, I'll be the first to try to reach out and let you know. Right now, it looks like only November 16th is the out of whack, out of standard meeting, and everything else would be the second Thursday of the month going forward.
So I live and die by my Outlook calendar, which is why I was sitting eating dinner when I happened to see Meredith's email. She was the one person on the phone. I'm going to be putting these in my calendar. Am I violating any rules if I send them to other people who also live and die by their Outlook calendar?
I definitely do as well. So
No.
Actually, if I could, Amanda, does it just make sense to ask Wayne to do that for us and send out meeting invites to all of these?
I just wrote them all down, including the
Perfect.
January and February ones, because I don't want to be eating dinner the next time this happens. So I'm happy to do it. It's no problem.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't have any items that could be not reasonably anticipated. Next meeting's Thursday, August 10th. If everybody's good to go, no questions, no thoughts, no concerns, I would happily take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That's hands, and actually, I think it was the great finger of Francesco. We shall call it. Jim, is that okay if we give the nod for the second to the finger of Francesco?
Yes.
Fair. So that's Ed and John, just going around the horn. Al,
Aye.
John, Ed,
Aye.
Amanda,
Hi.
Jim,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
and Tom is an aye. I hope you all enjoy the rest of July and the beginning of August. Enjoy the summer that we have, and I look forward to talking with you all soon. I'll try to get that information out if I can get the presentation that we talked about, so that you all can have it at your fingertips and start sharing news with people in town.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye, team. Thank you all so much.
Aye.
You will.
Good night.
Thank you.